Hi, Michael Bettine here once again, exploring topics covering gongs and bowls and bells. This time, probably one of the most asked questions I get, and that's, how do you hang your gong and all your other instruments? So we'll explore that right here, right now on It's Cuppa Time. So today we're going to explore two main topics. The first, what type of cords, rope, etc. should you use to hang your instruments from? And in the second part, I will talk about three main ways of hanging them, three different methods. So first, let's look at cords. Here in part one, we are going to talk about cords of all types used for gongs and bells and plates and things. On the table in front of me, I have some cords that have come off of gongs I've purchased over the years, and also the types of cords that I use. So we'll go through them and talk about what I see are the pluses and minuses, and why most of these don't work for me and I like to change them out. So first we're going to look at this. Here's a black cord, black woven. The thing to notice on this is it's a bit stretchy and it's fairly soft. Now something like this I don't like because I don't trust it. It's pretty soft, and that the stretchiness, over time, how much is that going to stretch and lower the gong? Similar to that, and I've seen people use these. You might recognize by the ends here. This is a bootlace. Same sort of thing. It's stretchy and it's soft. So unless it's an emergency and you need to find something quick to replace a broken cord, yeah, bootlace or something like that, you can use it, but I don't recommend it. And along with that, I do recommend, if you're traveling, to have some extra cord with you just in case a cord fails. And also, check your cords regularly. Check the knots and make sure they are sound and not coming apart. Check where the cord goes to the hole of the gong. That's really important. Let's take a look here. Here's a small Peisty gong, but sometimes this area here where the hole is can be sharp. And I just got some new gongs, and one of them had a fairly sharp edge because they just drilled through it and they didn't really clean it up. So I took a small file and smoothed off the edge to reduce the possibility of wear and cutting on the cord. But always check your knot. Make sure it's still together and it's not going to pull through. And check where the cord goes through the gong and make sure that's not overly frayed. And if it is, check the gong. You can just, I don't recommend, just softly rub your finger around the hole of your gong, especially on a chow type gong, and feel it. Is it rough or not? And like I said, I just got a new chow gong. It's kind of had some burrs on it, so I filed them down so I won't have any problems in the future. And I've never had a gong fall, so in 45 years of having gongs, I've never had one fall. So that all goes to regular maintenance and paying attention to what's going on. Okay, let's look at some more cords here. These are, I've got two of these that came off of gongs, and you can see we still have the untied knots in there. This is leather. This is the leather cord that I got on a gong. Probably something you can just buy at a hobby shop or something. It's sort of a square-sided one because it's probably just cut off of a flat piece of leather, and they just cut a strip and you get a square sort of cord. Leather, I don't recommend using leather because I think it can cause problems over time as far as strength, and leather can weaken in that. Here's another leather one here, and again you can see the untied knots. It's stayed in that position. This is more of a flat one, but it's, I don't know, I wouldn't trust my gongs to, or my bells or anything, to leather. It's just not sturdy. Now that's different than a paiste uses a gut cord, which is a very different sort of thing than just a strip of leather. Here's another one, which is a little wound cord, and you can see it has an inner core. You can see the white part that's inner. The thing I don't like about these two pieces with a wrap and a core is the core can pull out. And I think that really affects the integrity of the cord. So I don't really like that type either. Here's a small piece of, like, I don't know if this is cotton. It looks almost like a cotton or some sort of natural fiber off of a small gong I got. Again, natural fibers I tend to stay away from. Now here's an interesting one. This is a nylon cord. You see those ends are like really frayed on there, but they did wrap some tape around it. You can kind of see that. They wrapped some tape around. Here, this one's coming apart more. You can see there's a piece of tape on there. So they at least put tape on to keep the fraying from moving up the cord. But when you do get cords like this, when you get a synthetic, like a nylon cord, you want to heat the ends up. I mean, look at the difference here. And melt it a little so that it won't fray like this. They could have easily have heated this one up and melted it, but instead they put tape on it. It's kind of funky. So yeah, here's a bigger piece of nylon cord, and you can just see those ends are nice and sturdy. They're not going to fray out. I usually use a lighter, sometimes a candle. Depends on how many cords I'm doing at a time, you know, how much flame I need to have just sitting there. Sometimes you can get a heat iron thing that will melt it too. But yeah, you always want to do that with your cords to keep them from fraying. Here's a nice braided nylon cord here, a little heavier duty. Not bad, you know, it's fairly flexible. That's another thing I like to look for, is flexibility in a cord. I think that helps with the vibrations some, and it also can make it easier to put it over the hooks too. Like, here's a good example. This is a really stiff nylon cord. This is kind of like stuff you would buy at your hardware store and, you know, I don't know, tie a tarp down with or something. It's just, it's really stiff. There's no flexibility in there. And I got this on a gong and immediately out of here. This has got to go. Okay, here's another braided one. This came off an Indonesian gong. Big knot on one end, and it's just a nice braided nylon. It's fairly flexible. Not a bad cord, but I replaced it as I do on most of mine. Okay, here's some paracord, 325. It says on the label there, 325 paracord. And I know a lot of people recommend paracord. I don't like it because, again, if you can see here, it has the inner core, which you can see as white, and then there's the red wrapping around it. And then here's some other paracord. I bought a whole bunch because I was looking for something and I thought I'd try it out. This is 550 nylon paracord, military grade. And it says it holds up to 110 pounds. And the thing you find with any of these cords, I mean, unless you're hanging a 50 or 60, 80-inch gong, you're not going to exceed the maximum weight of the cord, the rating. I mean, even like a 40-inch gong might weigh 30 to 40 pounds. I mean, so you're not going to exceed the weight limit. But here's a paracord, and I cut off a little piece here just to show you. We can see there's the inner filaments, and we had the red wrapping, and I can just take this and pull it right out. There we go. And we have 6 separate inner filaments here. And here's the outer sleeve. Paracord. I don't like it. I know a lot of people really like it. Here's another example. This came off a Chinese gong, your typical chow or wind gong. And this is just like a cotton cord. It's got an inner strands, and then it's wrapped in the white cotton on the outside. I mean, this is not bad. Obviously, the Chinese have used this for who knows how long on their gongs, and they continue to use it. One thing, I don't think it looks very nice, and it gets really dirty easily, and then it just looks kind of crappy. And again, it's cotton, and it's a multi-core with a wrapping, and I don't like that. I don't want to trust my gongs to that. And here's, I bought some new gongs a week ago, and here's the cord off of one of them. Again, you can see, oops, a multi-core with a cotton sleeve on it. Took it off right away and changed it out. And one thing I discovered with this cord, this particular cord, I'll show you the gong. And we'll see if we can see it here in the camera. Let's see if I can get the right view on here, the right light. It's kind of hard to see. But there's a line that runs from way up here, goes through the center and up this way. The cord was sitting on the face of the gong, possibly in transit while it was in a plastic bag or something. And the cord reacted with the bronze. And it's almost like it's some sort of a chemical burn on the bronze here. I haven't tried to clean it off yet. So I don't know what the cord is treated with. But yeah, that's not cool. I wouldn't want that happening to all my gongs. Getting some sort of chemical reaction from the cord. So those are the things I don't use. What do I use? My preferred thing for hanging almost everything I have, gongs, bells, bell plates, and that is climber's accessory rope. And I got this on Amazon probably 5 years ago. I bought 100 feet of 3mm nylon cord here. And it's great stuff. I love it because it's very flexible. And just to explain, I mean, this is not what a climber would use to haul themselves up, but this is what they would use to haul their gear up, like backpacks and tools, whatever. This is the type of cord you would use to as lines on a tent, when you're staking out a tent, things like that. So this is 3mm, and I found that this fits most of my instruments. What I like is you can get different colors. I like red, so I got red. I do have some instruments with purple and black of the same diameter. So you can get different colors. I've seen blue and green and things like that. This was 100 feet. I think it cost me something like $20 or $25. And again, this was probably 5 years ago I got it, and I still have this much left. And I have hung over 2 octaves of tuned gongs. I have hung bell plates. I have hung Burma bells. I have hung a lot of other gongs. I have probably hung 50 or 60 things with this cord here. And I still have a lot left. But I like it. It's very strong. It's very flexible. And I just like this stuff a lot. I think it works great on everything. Some of my instruments have really small holes, so I'll use a different type of cord than this, but you can get this in different diameters. But most of the gongs and bells and that seem to work well with this. Some of them I'll have to double knot to get a bigger knot on them. In fact, here we go. Here's that gong I just got, the one with the mark on the front, and here is that. And you can see I just put a big knot on the back. Gong companies, don't put such big holes in your gongs. Smaller holes would be fine. We don't need to put huge cord in them anyway. And this works fine. I took it to a gig this weekend. It was fine. Now I know some people have said things about how different cords will dampen the vibration, different types of cords. I haven't really found that to be a problem unless you use some really super heavy cord and super big knots. Then you might cause a problem. Different materials I've seen people use. I've seen people use chain, which is totally ridiculous, metal chain. I've seen people use plastic coated wire, which is strong, fairly flexible, but I don't like the idea because the plastic can get cut through and then you're down to the wire. All types of ropes and cords of different materials. And you know, just surprising how people have hung all their instruments. But I really haven't found any big effect on the sound from different materials, where I know other people have said that. And I haven't really noticed a difference. Same thing with how it's hung, what it's hung from, what type of stand. I don't really notice a big difference in things as far as the vibrations and the sound. So there we go. Chords. Seems like a simple subject, but there's a lot to it. And you think about it, it's really important because our gongs and our bells and that are our livelihood, and we need to have them safe and secure and sounding good for all the gigs we play. In this second part, we're going to look at 3 main methods of hanging your gongs and other instruments with. The standard method, the Uffip method, and what I call the nexus method. And within those 3, there's a couple of variations. But these are the 3 ways I mainly hang my instruments. So the first one, the standard method, everybody knows. Here's a small Peisty gong. We have the cord going through the holes, and there is a knot on each end. So it pulls up tight, and there you go. And that will hang easily on 2 hooks. Our standard method from any size gong, you know, from 4 inches to 80 inches. This works out fine. Now a variation on that, here's a small tie gong, is the loop method. And if we look in the back here, pull the cord up, and it's actually 1 knot in the back forming a loop that goes through here. And this works fine, especially on something like this, because the cord is not touching the back of the gong at all, and or the knot or anything, so that you get any sort of a buzz. But you can do that. You can loop your cord. Here's another example of the loop one. This is a small wind gong, feng gong, and I have, you can even see it better, I have it looped and tied in 1 knot here. Now some people will complain because it's actually touching the gong here, and they will say, oh, but it'll dampen the gong some, and you know, that's not a good way to do it. I actually have this gong dampened here with a pad, so it doesn't matter to me if this cord is going to dampen it at all, which it really doesn't. This is not a big thing. Now, if you had a bigger wind gong and you had like some heavier nylon type cord and it was pulled through there, the knot could rattle, or you know, it could rattle. It could muffle it some, but I think people who worry about the muffling, it's just not a big issue. All the muffling there is, again, has to do with the pad. That's why the gong sounds the way it does. And that's for another video. So that's the main method we're all familiar with. So let's look at two other methods. Here's an Ogororo plate from the Italian company Uffip. And this is their hanging method, where they do a loop. And you can see that nice loop there. On the back there is a knot. So it's a length of cord with a loop and a knot. And Uffip always uses red. I have some 40-year-old plates that have faded red loops like this. So I mean, that's sort of Uffip's color, is to use red. And this is nice because it's kind of a versatile way to do things. We can hook it up to a regular stand, hook it to hooks like this, and it works real well. Or we can do something else, which is the way I normally do this with my full set of Ogororos. Let me grab this here. I've got this mount to hook on my gong rack, and it uses a bar. And what I can do is take this sort of loop and put it over the bar. So I can slide my set of 5 Ogororo plates on here and hang it off of my rack. And Uffip does this with their plates and some of their other instruments. But they do have one other method that's different than others. I don't have anything with that, but I can show you what it is. And that's how they hang their gongs. What they do is they make a giant loop. We'll use this for an example here, this cord. And they make a big loop like this with a big knot, and then they put this through the hole, and you have this sort of a loop that they will hang from. And that's generally how they hang their Targo gongs, their art gongs, and some of their other instruments. So that's basically the Uffip method. Now, one of the most versatile ways is what I call the Nexus method, because this I got from the very famous Nexus Percussion Ensemble in Canada. And they've been around for about 50 years or so. They were one of the first professional percussion ensembles. And they used to play with all kinds of gongs, and they had to come up with stands and easy ways of being able to mount them. And it's sort of hard if you have to always have hooks, because then you have to have specialized stands and that. But they came up with this fascinating way. And here it is. They have a knot, and it's 2 pieces of cord. And in the cord, they take a small S hook and hook it on there. I'll show you just a plain S hook here. And what I do is buy, these are 7/8 inch closed S hooks, and then I put them in a vise and pry one end open so I can slip it around the string. But you just put a knot through this end. And let me get this stand here. This is a microphone boom stand. So it'll show you how versatile this is. All you have to do is take your cord, put it over the stand, and then, oops, put the cord through the open end of the S hook and pull it tight. And do the same thing on the other side. And it's a great way to hang things, because you can hang them from different diameters of tubing. You could even hang a gong like this from square tubing. I'll show you a couple other things with this. You could even hang it from traditional hooks. Either, let's get this out of the way, either like this, or you could actually hook the two hooks together and then loop it through your gong stand like this. So there is a lot of versatility in this method. And to show you back here, I have one of my racks with the standard 1.5" Gibraltar tubing, and we just hook this on, kind of pull it tight, and there we go. So we can hang this like I showed you on the mic stand, or here on the Gibraltar stand. Let me move it over. We can hang different instruments. Here's a copper-clad bell, often known as a Nana bell or a Noah bell. And I just put a knotted loop through the handle here and then put the S hook on here. So this is how I hang all my bells like this. Loop it through, pull it tight. It's safe. It works really well. I've never had anything fall. And again, you can use it on different diameters of tubing, or even a square stand, like a Peisty gong stand. You could put it on there. That works out really well. Another variation of that, here's one of my aluminum moon plates. And I've got the S-hook method, the Nexus method here. And I've got the plate suspended here so that it gets a full resonance, that it's not choked off. But these plates just go on the same way. Hook it around. Kind of pull it tight. And there you go. So that's a really great way, to hang things. Let's look at a couple other ideas here. Here's a Uffip Burma bell with the Uffip hanging method with the thick cord through it. I use this a lot on the Burma bells that I don't want to spin so much, because this thick cord isn't going to twist and turn so much, so I can play these and they're not going to spin and spin and spin. I like it on I've got 8 Burma bells here that I often play sort of faster patterns on, so this keeps them from just moving all around on me. Now on the Burma bells that I want to move, I'll just make a big loop of a real thin nylon type cord. And you can see that. That way I can wind these up. So I can have it wound up and then hit it. And it'll wind itself back up, and now it's unwinding again. So I like that sort of method on the Burma bells that I use as spinning bells. Another part of this too is a longer cord will give you more spin. As you can see, this is probably about 8 inches long. So I can wind it up quite a bit and it will give me a lot of spin. On some of the bells I use a shorter cord to get less spin and that, but this works out quite well that way with a longer cord. So you have to experiment and play around with some of these ideas and decide, how you want your instruments to sound. That's a big part of it. Now here's another example. Here's another Burma bell. And I've got a handle. This is a handheld one I use. And I have a spinner, sort of a snap swivel spinner here. So I have a short cord going tied into the snap swivel. If I had a long one like this thing would just, it would just be rocking around like this. But I want to have control. So a shorter cord on any instrument will give you more control. So this one, I can use this way and walk around with it as a handheld bell. And it's also easy. I can stop it with one hand if needed. And similar to this, let me get this up here. I have an old Uffip local plate, and this also has a spinner attached to it. Get this back through here. And I'll hang this on a stand, but I'm using 2 of the Uffip standard methods, and then they're going into a split ring into the spinner. This is pretty heavy, but let's see if I can get it. So I can get this spinning with that sort of warbling Doppler effect there. So these are some of the different methods I use to hang my instruments. And a lot of it depends on, what exactly I'm doing with the instrument and what type of stand I have for it. I have some stands where I have a combination. I have my melodic gong play stand where all the small gongs, like this one here, and the small Thai gong, which are from that, they all go on hooks. But then I have 5 larger gongs on there where I use the S-hook method, like this. And that way I don't need to put hooks on those bars. And it just gives me a little more versatility for how I can space things and shift out the gongs. The top 2 bars are pretty set, with like 6 gongs each. Those are set. And the bottom 2 bars, sometimes I'll change out gongs of different sizes. So it gives me that kind of versatility. So that's basically how I hang my stuff with those 3 different methods. The standard method, either double knot or a single knot making a loop. The Uffip method with the single strand with a loop at the top, or the Nexus method. So thanks for stopping by. If you like this series of videos, please do subscribe down below. If you like this one in particular, hit the thumbs up. I'd appreciate that. And also, if you have any questions or any topics you would like to see covered, put them in the comments below. I'd love to answer anybody's questions and cover things that people seem to be thinking about. So until next time, we'll see ya.